NHL props, NBA props, UFC, PFL props, anything you need for the props betting market for the weekend, we've got you covered. Welcome to Prop It Up. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com, being joined, as always, by my fellow prop master, Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. No NFL, but that's all right. We don't need NFL to turn a profit over the weekend. We're going to go over some props that you can keep your eye on over the weekend to help make your weekend a profitable one. And Andrew, one of the things that we're looking at this time of year is some futures here in the NHL. We're coming out of the All-Star break a couple weeks ago. And listen, some teams have flourished. I thought it was the absolute worst timing for a team like the Edmonton Oilers, who were the best team in hockey at that time. And they've kind of been 500 since then, but the future lines are something that you've been keeping your eye on. So let's talk some NHL props. Let's talk some futures, and what's your take on what's happened out of the All-Star break?
Andy, great being here with you as always. Like you said, no football, still some props, still props to go over, still futures and things like that. I'm going to start with an award future here. I love these awards. I feel like they kind of go underrated here. People think they're kind of like, just fun bets or whatever. I think it's a really great and profitable market. And this is going to prove to everybody that thinks I'm just a Maple Leafs hater that I'm making jokes at them a lot, but I can still make some money with them. Look, Austin Matthews currently sits right now, Andy, at plus 240 for the Hart Trophy. In NHL terms, that means the MVP of the league. The way he is playing right now, I know the guy has more goals than he has assists, and people say that's kind of concerning. That's not really normal for a hockey player, but what he's doing every single game right now, the guy is like minus 140 or 145 to score a goal every single game. And the fact of the matter is they have shown they have some depth. Secondary guys for the Maple Leafs are playing better, but Austin Matthews is not taking any nights off. And the thing is with this Colorado Avalanche team, which is where Nathan MacKinnon plays, who's the number one guy right now at plus 185, I think they have more depth. So I think that the Colorado Avalanche can win games, Andy, without Nathan MacKinnon playing at that level. But right now, I'm not saying the Leafs are living and dying by Austin Matthews, but the level he's playing right now, there's a reason why they're on the winning streak that they're on. I strongly recommend a plus 240 play on the Hart Trophy MVP award for Austin Matthews. I believe that number will only get worse, not better, as far as the nice price there on that one. And then just looking at futures here, I think there's one that we have to mention, and it's Winnipeg Jets 14-1. At this point, we've got a team, I think one of the strongest teams in the Western Conference, one of the best goalies. I always mention such an underrated goalie with Hellebuck. Great defensive core. Picked up Monahan at the trade deadline from the Montreal Canadiens. I believe he already has 4 goals with them. And you look at all the other Western teams. You got Colorado plus 850. Vancouver's 11-1. Golden Knights are 13-1. To me, I feel like it's a lack of respect towards this Jets team. And I feel like at 14-1, that's kind of a more long shot to look at for a team that's most certainly going to jump in the playoffs. And then just really quick, Andy, before I throw it back to you, as far as the player props for today, some of these guys on teams that, let's just put it frankly, lose a lot. Like Nick Foligno for the Blackhawks, all right? He's plus 110 to get a point. And I know you've been cashing tickets nightly with teams or guys not to get a point, but with teams that have zero depth, that's where I've actually been looking. Like Columbus Blue Jackets, Johnny Gaudreau to get a point, right? Because there's nobody else out there. Blackhawks, Nick Foligno, right? For the Canadians, Nick Suzuki or Slavkovsky. People always want to bet on guys to get points on the big teams, but I saw a tweet that you had the other day about the game that had like 17 goals or something like that, and you still cashed a ticket for someone not to get a point. So I feel like it's kind of sneaky, like taking teams that are kind of bad, but still taking props. And the teams that are good, you can take players not to get a point because it's a different guy every night.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yes, that will go down as one of the craziest wins of 2024, and I know it's only February. But yeah, when you take a guy to not have a point and his team scores 10 goals which means you have 10 goals and 20 assists, or even if there's a couple goals that aren't full. Yeah, that was a wild one. Yeah, the players to not have a point has been amazing. It's on a 30-15 run, which is pretty amazing. So I would love to keep that percentage up throughout the course of the year. But one thing I've been doing is laying off some of these guys when they're playing teams that give up a lot of goals. And I mean, you look at a team, Andrew, like the New Jersey Devils, and I mean, 5-1, 6-2, 6-3. Those are their last three games. That's a team that I just can't really get involved with trying to take an opponent of theirs to not have a point. So you do have to really look hard at the opponent. Like when you're doing these plays to not have a prop, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not only taking into account the streaks; it's taking into account, are they on the first or second power play line? What's the opponent doing? Is it the backup goalie that's in? So yeah, there are a few things that you have to look at. And so yeah, there was a guy, and Ryan Ryan in the chat brings this up. I talked about I've been playing Tom Wilson to not have a point. And Tom Wilson has not been having points hardly at all. And so, sure enough, we lay off of him on a game where he, kind of has a pretty good matchup, and that was against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have been giving up a ton of goals. What happens? A Capital score 5 goals, and he ends up with a point. So when you're taking these guys to not have points, you definitely have to look really, really hard at the opponent. Couple of other guys that I've noticed. You mentioned on the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks, they finally get Bedard back, and Bedard, Andrew, this is an interesting stat. Only 3 times this season has he gone back-to-back games without having a point. So if he goes without a point, it's like, man, it's like an auto play the very next game to come back, because the Blackhawks, they basically have like 3 or 4 guys that get all their goals and all those points. If Bedard and Foligno don't have points, then the Blackhawks just don't have any. It's not like they've got depth. So your point is very, 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 very well taken, that you look at some of these plays. If the Blackhawks are going to score 2 or 3 goals, it's basically a shoo-in that Bedard is going to have a point. I mean, the guy had 6 points in his first 3 games when he came back. Now, he didn't have one last game, but the team only scored 1. So I'm with you. I think it's an interesting one. A guy that's heating up is Panarin. I've been playing him a lot to have less than 1.5 points, and sure enough, man, that guy is kind of caught fire. I think he's gotten to 2 points in 3 out of the last 4 games. But again, you got to look at the schedule. It's been against some teams that give up, quite a few goals. New Jersey is one of them. The Islanders, of course, they're going to give up goals. I mean, Montreal, they scored 7. This is a team that has scored 21 goals in their last 4 games. So now that being said, they get Philadelphia, who's not too bad on defense, but then they back-to-back against Columbus. So it's you definitely have to look at the opponent and some of the goalkeeping that is in there. Anything else you've been noticing on NHL? Any team totals or teams that you've been focusing on recently?
Andy, I've actually been diving into the team total unders a lot more. A lot of times I would talk about team total overs, whether it was on here or whether it was on Puck Time, but some of these times right now, you're going to get these marquee matchups. I know it's only the end of February, the 23rd here we're talking, but every game matters. Every point matters. Getting to overtime gets you a point. So, you look across the board, what I've noticed is a lot of the interdivisional games are the ones that are kind of more lower scoring right now. And whenever it's like Western Conference versus East, like just matchups that won't really impact you directly in your division, those are the ones that are seeing goals. So, I mean, look at last night's Carolina game. Finished 1-0. Brian Leonard, got to shut him out. His best bet on Puck Time, albeit a little bit chalky, under 3.5 team total for Carolina. They won the game. 1-0. And that's the thing with these very competitive games right now, because that's what it is, right? Usually the favorite is 3.5 under or over. So, yeah, Andy, I'd say just overall, looking at some of these bigger games are starting to go under the total, unless you're the Bruins and the Oilers the other night. That game was crazy. That was either good offense or just really bad defense. One of the two.
Yeah, and you just keep in mind with some of these props, you don't need too many of them to turn a really nice profit over the course of a week. I've just been settling in on a couple of guys, and they've been really, really doing well. You don't have to throw, 10 bets every night. Just find your couple guys, focus in on them, and the profits can be had. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, shout out to everyone in the chat. If you guys could hit the like button and leave us a comment. Tell us some of these props you guys have been hitting on. I know Anthony said he's been following the Nathan McKinnon shots on goal prop. Ryan said he hit on Rantanen last night. So let us know in the comment section what props you've been hitting on. There's a couple in the NBA that, Andrew, I want to bring up, and they're all in the same game. These are a couple guys that I've talked about over the last few weeks, and then they play each other tonight. And this is the San Antonio Spurs, Los Angeles Lakers game. I talked about LeBron James weeks ago over 1.5 3-pointers, and this is a play that is just like, it's just so perfect. It's right in my wheelhouse. So they keep putting LeBron around this minus 130, minus 140, over 1.5 made 3-pointers. And what's so beautiful about it is, Andrew, he keeps landing exactly on 2. And so it's like he keeps just barely getting over, but the books just can't quite make an adjustment. So this is a guy that has hit this in 9 out of the last 10 games. But of those 9 out of the last 10 games, 6 of them have been exactly on 2. So the books can't raise this to 2.5 because we'll just come right back and take the under. So he was off last night. He's playing again tonight, and he's playing against Victor Wembanyama, who I did the video yesterday on the lazy line of the week, which is Victor Wembanyama, and it's the same line, 1.5 3-pointers. And this is a guy that's been hitting this in almost 75% of his games over the last couple months. And he was 1 for 6 last night, so he did not go over. But you just keep coming back to it. The books are still giving us 1.5. He had 6 attempts. He just had a little bit of an off shooting night. So I fully expect him to get another 4, 5, 6 attempts. And you just keep playing these plays over and over and over again. I know it can be a little repetitive and a little boring, but it just makes life a lot easier when you can focus in on these guys. And another guy in that same game, it's really funny. D'Angelo Russell, I really think LeBron James is the one guy who can talk to D'Angelo Russell and not get him to fire up a million shots or to hog the ball. But D'Angelo Russell's stats when LeBron is playing and not playing are absolutely hilarious. So his rebounds plus assists, the line is 8.5 tonight. This play is 12-2 to the under the last 14 games he's played with LeBron James. Without LeBron, the over is 8-0. So it's just this very, very obvious trend that when LeBron is not there, D'Angelo Russell is grabbing rebounds, having assists, and scoring points. When LeBron is there, D'Angelo's like, I better not make him mad. I better let him grab that rebound. So it's, this D'Angelo Russell, just keep an eye on the Lakers lineup. When LeBron James is in there, you know what to do with Russell. When LeBron is out, you fire away. And I think this makes life difficult for the books when they're trying to figure out these lines, because these lines are mostly set by, the algorithm on what's the player's average. Well, the average is kind of his average is, a steady line, but when LeBron is out and in, it's just a gigantic roller coaster, and you get these really nice betting opportunities in the market. So yeah, there's 3 props. There you go. There's a same game parlay if I've ever seen one. Victor over 1.5 3-pointers, LeBron over 1.5 3-pointers, and D'Angelo Russell under his rebounds and assists. So those are a couple trends in the NBA that I've noticed. So,
awesome.
What else you got, Andrew?
I just want to say, Andy, I love that mindset of handicapping with props, especially how somebody does without that guy being there. But it's not usually that straightforward. That's insane how much better. But I mean, that's the hierarchy. That's the hierarchy of that team, right? LeBron comes back and he's like, all right, I'll come, step aside a little bit. For props, I usually stay away from the points. I like doing the rebounds alone or the assists alone. I haven't really had much luck with the points, rebounds, assists, kind of those combo props here. But James Harden, over 5.5 rebounds, hit in 8 of his last 10 games here, going up against Memphis tonight, 28th ranked in the league in rebounds overall, and give up a ton of offensive rebounds as well. And, James Harden, he might not look like the kind of guy that's going to get in there and, bang around and get rebounds? He does. He actually boxes out. I know it's surprising for people, but every single game, maybe he's getting lucky. Maybe they're just hitting back rim and they're popping right out to him. Who knows? But one thing I like is that it's not like it's just hitting 6 every time he hits this prop. We've seen 7s, 8s, 9s. And of course, it's very comforting when you're betting a prop for them not to be just squeaking over every time, especially in basketball. You know, in hockey, if a guy is over 2.5 shots and he's getting 3 a lot, a little bit different. But in basketball, I certainly want to see them go over by at least a couple each time. And then I mentioned to you before the show, I really like betting on some of these props when the number is super small. And I know that sometimes that kind of leaves you very little room for error. It reminds me of the Kyle Juszczyk in a Super Bowl. Man, that was nice. You know, first play, and then the guy didn't get the ball again really the whole game. So that was nice to catch that. But how about Michael Porter Jr. here? Over 1.5 assists. The guy that gets trolled by everybody because he hasn't never seen a shot he doesn't like. He's never seen a contested shot he won't take. But his over 1.5 assist prop, Andy, is plus 115. I really like that. He's gone over that in 7 of his last 10 games here. And again, I mean, you got some guys that are 6.5, 7.5. If they get in foul trouble, that prop is really in trouble. For him, I mean, he just needs 2 guys to capitalize after he passes them the ball, and you cash that ticket. So, I mean, it's definitely low for a reason with MPJ, but at the same time, I think with it's that low, it's kind of a good buy sign for us.
I love it. Yeah, touch a little bit more on those. You made the point like right before recording, like everyone looks at centers for rebounds. Yeah, but that's where all the highest numbers are at. You like looking at kind of the lower, a little bit more obscure players to grab the rebound just because the number is so low.
Absolutely. And same thing goes for centers on assists, right? Everyone thinks naturally, okay, I'm going to look for the point guard because the point guard has the ball a lot. He's going to pass the ball. But again, typically the point guard's going to have that high number for their assist prop. And depending on a team and how they play, you know, you've got, look at, I mean, Jokic is probably a pretty easy example to use, but, you know, look at where he catches the ball a lot. On the elbow, you know what I mean? He's catching the ball high in the post. He's not really catching it down low. So sometimes they're facilitating through him. Look back to that Golden State run where they were just so dominant for many, many years. They still are a good team, but obviously not the same. The offense was sort of running through Draymond Green, was it not, Andy? I mean, you had Clay and Steph flash cutting underneath the hoop, and Draymond was just racking up his assist props by feeding them the basketball because if Steph is such a great shooter, somebody has to pass him the ball. So, yeah, I really like it. And, you know, it's kind of the opposite of what you like. Usually you'd look towards. And let's be honest, sometimes being a contrarian in this business is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, go ahead and hit the like button, leave us a comment. Make sure you hit that bell if you want to get notifications. And if you're enjoying the gambling content, don't forget we've got plenty of content up on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, daily breakdown videos of your favorite college basketball and NBA and NHL games. We've got WagerTalk today every day, Monday through Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So if you want to get notified, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, and we got you taken care of to help you build that bankroll. And let's take a look at some MMA plays. I will tell everyone I have a 5% play up for UFC. That is this weekend. And we have a monster weekend of UFC plays. Andrew, I'll be honest, I sat out all NHL plays Wednesday. Yesterday, we hit a lacrosse play, and then I sat out another night of NHL plays. There's no reason to force it. We do our bankroll reset day on the road to millions today, and I have a week of profits locked in. And I'm just salivating over the Saturday card for all these plays. And it really, really starts with MMA. The PFL card starts at 1 p.m. Eastern, goes right into UFC, which is going to end around about 1 a.m. You're literally looking at 12 to 13 hours of MMA. So we have a 5% play that is up right now, and I fully expect that to be a really, really big card. I've got a couple of props that could be interesting. One of them is a plus 550. This is Francisco Prado at plus 550 to have a knockout. He is fighting Daniel Zellhuber. Now, this is the UFC Mexico card, so you've got a lot of Mexican fighters. Sometimes they set these Mexican fighters up with some pretty easy opponents. Let's be honest. This is not one of them. This Zellhuber, this is a tough opponent with Francisco Prado. He has absolute KO power, no doubt. Zellhuber is taller, longer, within the arms, much longer legs. He's got good legs, but man, he leaves his chin wide open. And nobody's really cracked him big enough to knock him out at the UFC level. Prado can do it though, and he has kind of been Zellhuber's been one of those guys where he'll eat a shot or two so he can land 3 or 4, and that's just not going to work early on against Prado. Prado gets to that chin, and Zellhuber doesn't shore up that striking defense. I promise you, Zellhuber is going to sleep. So plus 550 on Francisco Prado to win by KO is an interesting prop. Christian Quinones and Ione Barcelos to go the distance. That's plus 165. 6 out of the last 7 Ione Barcelos fights have gone the distance. He's a little bit older in age, so he doesn't quite have that knockout power. Quinones, younger, kind of up and comer, but I like the veteran in this matchup to just kind of keep the distance, extend the fight, show off some of the, kind of veteran wrestling, grappling, and jiu-jitsu, and I think he stays out of trouble. I was stunned to see a Barcelos fight at plus 165 to go the distance. It's kind of all this guy does is go the distance. I believe he lost to Umar Nurmagomedov in round 1. He got knocked out, but all of his other fights, they keep going the distance. So to get plus 165, I love. And then in the main event, Andrew, Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval over 3.5 rounds. This one's minus 145. So this is at elevation. Moreno should be used to it. I worry about the cardio of Royval as the fight goes on. But these guys know each other so well. They fought before. Unfortunately, Royval had the shoulder injury right at the end of the first round. But I think these guys are really evenly matched. Royval can have fights that get under pretty quick, but he went the decision against Pantoja. A lot of that fight took place on the ground. I think that's where you could see this happening again. I also think this is one of those fights where both guys come out and don't want to get finished early. So there's a big feeling out process. If there's going to be a finish, I think it's later on. So I like this fight to go over 3.5 rounds. I do worry about the fight going the distance completely just because of Royval's cardio and that it is elevation. But those are some UFC props that might be worth a sprinkle. You got Prado, the KO at plus 550, Barcelos to go the distance, and the Moreno Royval over 3.5 rounds. Anything you like this weekend in the UFC card?
Yeah, great stuff, Andy. Hopefully we can cash the knockout in the 4th or 5th round because I had that one to not go the distance is what my my bet was for the main event. So I think we can still cash that ticket. It's something that is doable for both of us to be able to win. As you know, on Puck Time or whatever show I'm on, if I like to find ways we can both win. And and I agree with you. The fact these guys are familiar with each other, the styles kind of match up. But what I like is that, obviously submissions are going to be the main thing, but, there can be some action on the feet as well with the striking. And I love fighters that can create, damage on both sides. Sometimes you see like a grappler versus striker versus grappler, and you kind of just know with each guy where they're going to do their damage. Both these guys can do it in both ways. As far as Royval, 7 of his last 10 fights have ended inside the distance. 15 of his 22 career fights have ended inside the distance. 3 of the last 5 for Moreno, but not as huge of a clip long term. I agree with you about the slow start, feeling out process, but I feel like once the first person lands that first shot or feels in any type of trouble on the ground, it's going to be just super elevated, and then everything, all game plans go out the window. It's going to be an absolute masterclass for the first 2 rounds. Martial arts on, perfect, and then it's going to be just a street fight, I believe. Even though they don't want it to be, the coaches will not be happy. I think that these guys are going to brawl in the 4th and 5th round, give the fans a show. And then, Andy, I know this is probably the popular play of the weekend, I guess, but I'm going to go with Raul Rosas Jr. To win by points. I just think that for him, looking at his matchup, well, maybe it's not popular. That I know everyone thinks he's going to win, but Tercios, I just think that his takedown defense and grappling, from what I've read, is so bad. Of course, me saying how bad it is could lead to a submission, could lead to something happening on the ground. But we saw what happened to him, man. He's still a young guy, 19 years old. He doesn't want to make any mistakes. He needs to climb the ladder, climb the rankings. And I know the way to do that sometimes is to impress people by knockouts, by finishing fights early. But at the same time, sometimes a W is just a W. I feel like he absolutely just dominates this fight, 3 rounds, and then wins by unanimous decision. So I'm going to take Raul Rosas Jr. by points.
Love that one. Yeah, that guy, man, he's an interesting cat. I wonder what his career is going to look like. The guy's 19. Andrew, I know what I was like at 19. I can't imagine trying to hold down an up and coming UFC career. Like, my God, his last fight, his in-ring interview after the fight was so bizarre. And I know that shouldn't let it affect me, but I was like, I don't trust this guy in the slightest. I don't know what's going on with him. So, but yes, Tercios is not a great fighter. We haven't seen him in a while. And this is another one where on the Mexican card, it's like, who can we pile off the scrap heap to get a win? Oh, Ricky Tercios. Yeah. We haven't seen him in a while. Yeah, let's get him out there. I saw in one of Tercios' last fight, I think he landed like 11% of his strikes. It was just like whiff, hit a guy. Then 11 more whiffs. He's not a great fighter. So hopefully Hostas is learning how to kind of hold that energy back, because he has a tendency to gas himself a little bit.
Yes.
Andrew, yes, he does, but
I told someone earlier in the week, Andy, I'm going to be a genius or an absolute idiot. Like, he's going to win the fight in 2 minutes, or he's going to milk it for 3 rounds. It's going to be one of the other. It's not going to be like a second round finish. It's either going to be a first round finish, I think, or it goes the distance.
It's tough when you're betting a guy like him, because his fighting style and his skills are elite. There's no denying that. You watch him and you're like, man, when he wraps that body triangle around guys, it's locked in. It's cinched in. You're not getting out of it. But at the same time, you're like, he's still a teenager. And what do you get all those trials and tribulations you get with a young guy growing up. So his career is going to be fascinating to watch. I really hope he's got the right people surrounding him, and we don't see his career falter because he gets out in front of his skis, so to speak. So, Andrew, tell everyone what you have up and where we can find you at, and I'll go over an interesting prop to take a look at in PFL.
Andy, the main thing I want to promote right now is MLB. A lot of the times right now we're mentioning these early bird specials for the entire season. I have a special going right now from right now until the All-Star break. So I finished number 6 at WagerTalk last season. I think there was like 29 of us handicapping. I was number 2 with totals. Team totals were a big part of that, plus 30 units on the season. I was very low volume, pretty much one play a day, if that. Didn't mind taking days off, picking my spots, and the playoffs went well as well. So if you guys want to join me for the MLB, join me for some team totals, and have a great summer. You can get that great deal right now at my homepage, and finish the year off last year on a 70% run. So can't wait to start things off on a great note this year.
Love it. Yeah, I love that you've dove into those team totals. I love the team totals market. I think it's so much easier to just focus on one team rather than bring the other team completely into the mix. So I love that one. One last PFL prop before we get going, and I have my 5% best bet that is up. It involves PFL and UFC, but Biagio Ali Walsh is fighting this weekend, and if you have not heard that name, you certainly will soon. It's Muhammad Ali's grandson. This is going to be technically his first professional fight. He's had a lot of amateur fights, so he's 7-1 as an amateur. His loss was his very first fight. Other than that, he's just been absolutely trucking guys. And you have to understand, PFL signed this guy early. He is their golden child. They love this guy, and they want to bring him up slowly because they know they have an absolute star. He is a legit fighter. He has real skills. What he doesn't have is a lot of cage time, mostly because he's just so physically better and more gifted than the guys that he's fighting. He's just been steamrolling them in the first round. So, Andrew, what I've noticed is there's been a couple times where he could have knocked a guy out, and you see him pull back, manage his cardio, and just try and work him a little bit more. And I was talking to my good friend Jim Malero, friend of the show. By the way, just had their first baby on Wednesday, so congratulations. Shout out to him. That's why he's not in the chat this morning. He was saying what's so important, and Jim owns his own karate gym, so he knows the mixed martial arts game very, very well. He was saying what's so important for a guy like Biagio Ali Walsh is cage time and fight time. And you're not going to get it by going in there and killing somebody in the first minute. So he was like, I've watched some of his fights, and I really think that they are training him to be like, we know you can finish this guy in the first minute. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for you to land some strikes and pull back. We're looking for you to practice your ground game. We're looking for you to extend these fights. Not saying like throw the fight, but just there's no reason to completely blitz a guy. Let's take it in round 2. And let's test your cardio. Let's make the other guy work. Let's really get as many minutes out of this fight as possible. This guy he's fighting, Emmanuel Palacio, Andrew, is horrific. I found the guy's fight somehow online, and he's terrible. He's had one fight. He won his fight, but he was basically fighting the hot dog vendor from the stadium that they pulled out of there. And Biagio Ali Walsh is going to win. He's going to finish this guy. I have it will start round 2 at plus 104. I don't think he's going to finish him early. I think he's going to kind of play with his food. I think he's going to practice his ground game, because if he does have a weakness, that absolutely is his weakness. It's his ground game. I think he's going to try and milk this and try and get as many minutes as possible out of this one. So could he finish this guy in the first 2 minutes? Yeah, of course he has the ability and the skills. Is he going to? I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to wait a little bit. You look at his last fight, and that was a fight that Walsh could have finished super early. He didn't, and I think we see more of it. So it's a little counterintuitive, because Walsh should win by finish, but I think he draws it out a little bit. So my sneaky play is the Biagio Ali Walsh will start round 2 at plus money. So. All right. Andrew, you got anything else for this weekend? What are you doing? You mentioned you're doing some press for a basketball tournament today?
Yeah, it's kind of like like a conference weekend, so to speak, here, like equivalent to in the States with the NCAA basketball. So it's our Canadian university basketball, and it's the conference tournament for the region where I live. And yeah, I got a press pass, so I'm doing some interviews, some highlight tapes, and things like that, writing articles. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. That'll be a lot of fun.
You can't bet on it though. So. There's no lines.
Well, that might be good. It might be better for the bankroll than to not force some action on a tournament like that. So we'll have fun at that, guys. Don't forget to go check out all of Andrew's plays at WagerTalk.com. I've got my 5% best bet that is up, as well as a lacrosse and NHL pack that is up. That lacrosse game starts here in a few hours, so grab that at WagerTalk.com. Good luck on all your plays. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. If you're enjoying the gambling content, leave us a comment. Tell us what your best bet is for this weekend. Good luck on all of your plays. Don't forget, you don't have to go too hard and heavy on those bankrolls. Let's practice good at bankroll management and have a profitable weekend.